Today's guest is our Director of Client Engagement at MultiplyMii, and for sure you will learn so much from her in terms of speaking with clients, sales, speaking with customers over the phone, as well as her experience in shifting from an office setup to a remote setup. So let's go ahead and meet our guest for today. Welcome to IRL, or inREAlity. Watch and listen as we share unscripted stories of being a corporate creative. I've been working with MultiplyMii for over a year now, and it really is changing the BPO landscape in the Philippines. MultiplyMii is hiring talented Filipinos and providing long-term, stable employment opportunities, especially in the e-commerce, Amazon, and digital industries. We also provide a competitive compensation and benefits package, all while working from the comfort of your home.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of inREAlity, and of course I'd like you to meet our guest for today. Let's say hello to Kat. Hi Kat, how are you doing?
Hi, everyone. Good. Thanks for having me, Rhea.
Yes, of course, and I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today, and of course hear some of your insights about the industry and most importantly your personal experience, because I'm sure a lot of our viewers can also resonate with those experiences. But to start with, I'd like you to please introduce yourself a little bit, like your background in the BPO industry and how you come to this point wherein you're already working with MultiplyMii.
Yes, great. I haven't had a very long tenure in BPO and outsourcing. This is probably, I'm going into my fourth year.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to outsourcing, I was working for a global mobility company here in Metro Manila, helping expats find life in the Philippines. And then before that, my history and education and the career path that I thought I was going to go into, I was working in hotel and restaurant management. I loved working front office in hotels, and I'm kind of service oriented in the core. And obviously the draw initially was to travel with that career field. And I've taken a lot of that experience in hotel and restaurant kind of service into the outsourcing. I've always held kind of a sales position. Before MultiplyMii, I was working for a company called Amapta. I was business development manager there. And then now with MultiplyMii, I'm a director of client engagement. So I'm always kind of front of house. I love talking to people in general, but especially in this regard, I love talking to different businesses of different sizes and just introducing them to the talent in the Philippines. It's probably my favorite part of what I do.
Wow, that's amazing, and I think you're the perfect person to answer some of the questions I have about talking to clients and talking to businesses, and how it relates to the entire industry. But before that, I'd also like to know what is your current role in MultiplyMii. You mentioned you're Director of Client Engagement, and can you please tell us more about your day-to-day, just to let us understand what it's like to be in your position?
Yeah, it's very much of a hybrid role. I right at this moment, it's probably 50-50 in sales and being able to speak to to clients and bring in some new business. And then the other half is really, I work with the service delivery team, our head of recruitment, our accounts management team, in really understanding what it looks like after the client has moved forward and decided to engage with MultiplyMii. So I really get a chance to see it end to end and participate in the entire client experience. A typical day, I at the moment am catering to a lot of our US based customers. So I'm working mostly when I'm doing client calls, mostly in the evenings to cover the Pacific and East Coast. But I'll start my day mostly with kind of the admin work and a lot of the internal meetings. Either sending out the proposals from the calls the night before, attending to different alignment meetings to make sure that what I'm selling to the client or explaining about the engagement is aligned with the service delivery team. And they oftentimes give me a lot of really great talking points when they talk about certain pain points of current customers or even of the employees. It gives me really good ammunition when I get into those first conversations to be prepared with answers and questions to the clients to help the transition a little bit easier. And then, I reserve the late evenings for calls.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a nice way to put it, because I'd also like just a follow-up question to what you mentioned, that you talk to clients a lot, and then really understand what they need. It's also one of the things that we usually do, especially in the service industry, right? We talk to customers a lot, or clients, and also through phone calls on your end, right? Most of the time through phone calls. And I'm just curious, like, is this something that you've done before that you're now really comfortable speaking with clients, or is it just really innate in you that happens, or do you still get nervous
That's such a
sometimes?
good question. I get nervous all the time. I get nervous
Okay.
all the time. And the habit that I shouldn't have is, so I'll obviously, once I get the name, and if it's easy to track them with their email address, I'll go and stalk them on LinkedIn and whatever social media
Okay.
outlets that they have. And that sort of intimidates me, because I'll look at their LinkedIn profile, and they've been business owners, or they've been directors and executives of these large companies, or they're a really fresh new startup with a Harvard law degree. And I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
man, I'm so nervous to talk to you. um, but you get on these calls and you realize that they also, everyone's human. We all sort of have our own insecurities as well. You could be the most confident person, but there's just a little bit of doubt somewhere. And for those who have never worked with remote teams, or this is their first time offshoring in the Philippines,
Mm.
they're really looking to me and to MultiplyMii for the answers. They don't know the questions that they should be asking me. So they do rely on a lot of the guidance that we're able to provide when it comes to the talent, or the roles, or how their organizational structure can be fixed with our help. I just, I always have to remember that. I still get nervous, but prior to calls, I was more used to the face-to-face. As I mentioned, I was in hotel restaurants, so it's kind of just in your
Yeah.
face, and you have 10 seconds to make it work, 30 seconds
Yeah.
to please the customer. So again, I take that education with me in this regard, and I know that I've got a limited time to sort of wow them,
Yes, true.
and give them a really good picture of what MultiplyMii can do. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
true.
it's still nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you mentioned that, because putting what you explained into most of what our viewers are currently experiencing, like speaking with clients and customers from the other side of the world, is nerve-wracking. And for someone like you, who has had already a great deal of experience in speaking with clients about their businesses, even still gets nervous, how much more for someone who's still starting? So if you're watching this and you're still starting in the customer service or BPO industry, it is totally normal to get anxious and really nervous.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I can also say so for myself, because even though I've like done it so many times, every single call is still nerve wracking for me. Like there's
Yeah.
still that thought that, okay, what will happen to this call? But still, you go to that call ready and prepared, like what you said. Just have to be prepared and really speak with them. And also, one point that you mentioned, that these people go to us for guidance, because most of the time they really don't know what they're looking for. Like that's why you are the subject matter expert, right? So that's a role that we have as frontliners as well in every company, especially for our viewers out there who are most likely going to speak with customers over the phone as well. There's that feeling that how am I going to align myself with someone who's from the other side of the world? So I think it dehumanizes, or does it humanizes? I guess the term. Like it makes it more human for us to,
Yes.
you know, you're not alone. It's really going to be nerve-wracking, but you'll have to push through and really go through it. So in
Yeah, and
relation
it's
to that,
taken a lot of practice,
yes, yes, that's true. And you were saying,
and it helps to, we have a sister company in the business consulting Escala, so they've given
yes,
me a lot of information and a lot of knowledge. We cater to a lot of Amazon and e-commerce. We're mostly in that space, and so
yes,
coming into it, I didn't have very much experience in that area.
right,
So, being resourceful and reaching out to the people in your internal teams and even former colleagues,
yeah,
don't be shy to ask for advice or self-education. I mean, YouTube, you can find anything, Google it.
yes,
But yeah, being able to come to the call prepared, having an understanding of their business, have a look at their website, um, just showing that you care, that you
yes.
cared enough to do a little bit of research before that call.
Yes, exactly. And I like that you mentioned, even though you've had an experience, let's say, in the BPO or service industry, but coming into MultiplyMii, you did not really have that much experience when it comes to our businesses or the businesses that we're serving, which are Amazon or e-commerce, but you are like educating yourself as well, so that you'll be aligned with the business. So I think that's really important because people in the BPO industry, especially the newbies in the industry, don't really have that much experience when they get hired. But we always rely on training so that you'll get aligned and you'll know exactly what to say when you speak with customers. So, by the way, in relation to that, you mentioned earlier you were working in an office previously, and before you started working from home, just like all of us, pre-pandemic, you worked in an office. So, what was your experience like, and what made you decide to start working remotely or from home?
Yeah, I mean, what made me decide to work from home really was the pandemic. I didn't have a choice.
Oh, okay. So it's really because of the
um,
pandemic.
yeah, I was working again. I was working for Mapta, and they have beautiful offices. So I loved coming
Mm.
into the office, and they've got several offices in Metro Manila, so I could choose, on any given day which office I
Wow.
wanted to report to. So it was a huge perk. But I loved being able to see my colleagues if I needed any information or if I just wanted to vent about a particularly bad day. I
Yeah.
loved being able to go to their desk and have a little chit chat.
True.
If I felt like I was stuck on a project or stuck on an email, I didn't quite know how to explain it. That ability to go and pick their brain right then and there without
Right.
having to worry if they've seen my team's chat or are they going to respond to my email. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't like working from home at first because I've got a young
Mm.
daughter. And I didn't feel like my home was conducive to a good working day. And then a year later you learn to push through it, and now I honestly can't imagine actually having to go back to an office and working.
Right.
um, yeah, it's been really important. I came to the party late. Like I worked off of my kitchen table
Oh, yes.
because I thought it was temporary, and
Mm.
I'll do this for a few days and go to the office for a few days. But I finally carved out a space. I bought a proper desk and chair, and I made a zone.
Yeah.
I'm in my living room, but you step into the zone and you're working. So it's a different mindset when you actually carve out space.
Right. And thanks for sharing that because I know that a lot of our viewers are, may have been forced, okay, kasi man, like forced, quote unquote, in a good way because of the pandemic. But for myself, I've worked from home since 2016, so I was kind of like very well adjusted to this type of work. But later on, we'll talk more about that. But in your experience, especially joining MultiplyMe as 100% remote team, how is it like? Is it the same with? I mean, in terms of let's say benefits or the culture and maybe um, interacting with a team.
Yeah. I've actually have more interaction with the team here with MultiplyMii,
Mm.
honestly. I think we're at a size right now where it's, if you've got a new idea or if you've got any idea related to anything, it's an easy email, Slack chat, Google
Yeah.
call, Google Meet, and you know, it, it's we have a lot of internal meetings, but they're
Yeah.
structured in such a way that it is such a safe space, like an open forum to just talk about, we talk about any issues that are related strictly in our departments, and then we kind of open up to brainstorming on how we can help another colleague in a different department. And we have a lot of, like, we've got our Monday coffee breaks,
Yeah.
Friday happy hours. And there are some, obviously when we're not under lockdown, there was an opportunity where some of us that are in different pockets, particularly here in Metro Manila, a few of us were able to meet up in person. I still think there is a lot of value in being able to meet in person, and
Yeah.
hopefully later this year, next year, we're all going to be able to hang out and find a really fun beach resort to go and team build.
Yeah.
Um, but the happy hours can happen at home where you can commiserate and talk about a long day on Zoom. It's easier on the wallet, right? There's no commute.
Yes.
Um, so no, the I do. I honestly feel like working remotely, it makes you want to connect even more,
Mm.
um, just to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do, and if you can help others, that you're just a phone call away.
Yeah, that's true. And I'd also like to highlight that part because, especially when I was starting this channel, I know that I think almost all of my viewers are working in an office or may not have an idea that the BPO jobs can actually also be done from the comfort of your home up until the pandemic. And we're going to talk more about it later. But it's nice to highlight that fact that, you can actually do a lot of your tasks from home and still be productive, especially with
Yeah.
us here at MultiplyMe, given all the tools that we have, the resources. We're definitely still able to complete our jobs really well, even though we are a 100% remote team. We don't have an office, and we haven't even met each other just yet. But
Yeah.
I think it still works for us, right? And I think that's a nice thing to show our viewers that you too can look for opportunities that are not just office based. I mean, if you prefer the office, of course, go ahead and do so. But if
Yeah.
some of you may want to like shift to work from home jobs and opportunities, and there's definitely a lot that you can find as well.
It's
So,
such a huge benefit. I mean, being able to
mm,
do what you love to do in the
yes.
comfort of your own home and kind of set your own schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. And of course, we've talked so much about your experience in the industry and also shifting to work from home job or opportunity. Before we move on to the next set of questions, let's take a quick commercial break. All right, everyone, we're back here in our episode. And before we continue our conversation with Kat, let's have a quick icebreaker just to have some fun in this episode. So, Kat, are you ready for a Would You Rather
Oh
Workplace
no.
Edition?
I'm ready.
Yes. Okay. So our first question is, and by the way, while we're doing this, to any one of you who's watching right now, feel free to answer the would you rather questions in the comment section below. Just join in the fun because I think that it's good to have some fun even though we're interacting virtually. Okay, let's move on. So the first question is, would you rather do something you love and make just enough money to get by, or do something you hate but make millions of dollars?
Oh, I would do something I love
Whoa.
for
Okay,
sure.
would you rather work for a very small company or a very large company?
A small company.
Would you rather have a terrible boss but a great job, or a great job but a terrible boss?
Ugh, that's tough. I would rather have a great boss.
Mm, Why not?
Because then they can then hopefully launch me into a better job later.
Would you rather have a job where you talk to people all day or a job where you stay at your desk by yourself all day?
No,
Know
I
the
want to talk
answer.
to people all day.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's your answer because of course you're speaking with people all day. Would you rather run a country or run a business?
Wow. I would rather run a business.
Hmm. Would you rather write a New York Times bestseller or win an Olympic gold medal?
Cool. I will win an Olympic gold medal.
For what? What do you think?
uh, Geez, I'm not sporty at all for swimming.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe in the future, right? And our last question is a silly question, but no, it's fun. So, would you rather swim the Atlantic Ocean or bike across the United States?
Oh man, I would bike across the U.S. because I'm afraid of sharks.
You should swim so that you'll have the Olympic gold medal for
Yeah.
swimming.
Swim in a
Or
pool.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you can join like a triathlon, swimming and biking. But anyway, me too. I'd rather bike, I guess. So you'd see the sights.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't say you can't rest in between, right?
Or eat. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, Kat, for participating. Let's continue our conversation. My next question for you is, as a current director of client engagement, obviously you speak with different clients frequently, and these clients may not know exactly what they're looking for. But what do you think are the usual expectations of clients when they think of hiring Filipinos, especially for remote work? And I have a follow-up question, but later.
I think the most common is low cost, like super
Mm.
low cost. They'll be like, oh, can I have a director of marketing for $5 an hour? It's like
Okay.
you can, but I don't know that they're going to be very effective.
Good point.
Um, and I get it. That's kind of that's the leverage with offshoring in the Philippines is that you are going to have some cost savings. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I discuss with the customers again, it's you will get what you pay for.
True.
And yeah, there is a lot of low cost roles, like you can do data entry or very entry level customer service to kind of dip your toe and give that a try. But if we're looking for more technical and more senior management roles, definitely you'll come to find that it's not going to be $5 an hour.
True. That's right. And
Yeah.
in terms of like, have you like received some like requests when it comes to say I want this type of employee in terms of their, let's say, qualifications, character, things like that, knowing that they're hiring Filipinos? Have you come across those questions or expectations?
Yeah, I find that a lot of people who have had experience with offshoring in the
Mm.
Philippines or outsourcing in the Philippines, um, they will ask for talent that is more proactive. I think that in their
Mm.
previous experience, their employees would just say yes, or they would just follow along.
Yeah.
Um, but the trend is really obviously that they're looking to hire talent, the best talent, whether it be in the Philippines or
Mm.
anywhere else. So
Mm.
um, they're really looking for people who have their own ideas, who can come into a role, whatever it may be, and to
Mm.
actually help them, build out a job that they want to work in.
Mm.
That isn't just output based. Um, to consider it actually like a career that
Yeah.
they can foster into something bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree. I think that being proactive is really something that we can all like benefit from, especially when you're working remotely wherein you don't really get to meet your managers or your leaders every single day compared to when you are in an office. It you can just be, your manager can just go to you anytime, or you can just go to your manager anytime and then tell you what to do. But with remote work, what if they're not available yet? So it's your own initiative to continue doing the
Yeah.
work that will make sense for the business, or, it will make sense for your position or your role. And I'd also like to highlight that, especially with some of our viewers are now working in an office or maybe starting, even though you're starting as an entry level customer service specialist, I think it's still very important that you are proactive, not
Yeah.
just with assisting customers, but also with your own learning or your education. And in relation to that, you mentioned being proactive. What do you think are some of the skills that our Filipino employees can still improve on to have a, better working relationship with foreign clients?
Yeah, great question, because it's not even role specific, or
Mm.
in my opinion, it's not even like a technical skill necessarily. Obviously,
Okay.
depending on the role, you do have to have the technical skill, but more often the client is looking for hiring for the right attitude.
Mm.
Again, that idea of being proactive, and being really communicative, because it is remote.
Yes.
You're, and it's not just responding to an email, or it's not just responding to a Slack message, but actually, you know, using all the tools. If you've got project management systems, copying in the right people instead of copying in the whole company.
Yeah.
um, and sort of that attitude of, like, if you feel like you can do more, if you've got more capacity in the day, and you're not just doing whatever to get by, and actually raising your hand to start new initiatives, or having the ideas for new projects. Like, I don't know what that skill is. It's a lot of skills rolled into one, but that's really what they're looking for, especially as they build remote teams. And I may be working with a US based client, but they also have employees spread across all over the
Yeah.
world. Your ability to communicate clearly, and I don't mean that just in like an English
Mm.
translation, but that your messages and your email are concise and to the point, and if you need help or don't understand, you ask for more of an explanation.
Yes, that's true. And I also just want to highlight what you said about, like having an initiative and not waiting for your boss, maybe, or your manager to tell you what to do. Obviously, maybe at some point in your career, especially when you're starting, that you still don't know what to do yet, and you're still waiting for instructions. But as soon as like you get the hang of it, you also have like the initiative to innovate or do something new that you
Yeah.
think will be able to help the company or your team, not necessarily just in relation to speaking with customers, and putting a weight also with the communication skills, and not necessarily speaking English, but like being able to interact well with your clients and your customers as well. I think that's really, really important. And of course, to wrap up our conversation, Kat, I know that a lot of our viewers here have been working in an office, and up until the pandemic, they probably don't know that, or may not be sure that there are a lot of opportunities that can be done remotely or from home. So what would you say is your main tip, or I guess your advice, for people out there who want to shift from an office-based job to a remote job?
Mm. You know, what's my tip is really knowing what it is that you want to do. Because if
Mm.
it's something you want to do and you're good at it doesn't matter if you're sitting in an office or sitting at home. Your
Yeah.
productivity is going to be high regardless, because you enjoy it. Um, I think the biggest tip really, or the biggest learning that I had this year, is to break it down into chunks, because I
Mm.
am at home. I'll see the pile of dishes, I have to do laundry, my daughter
Yeah.
needs this or that. So I break it down into 20 minutes and do whatever it is I need to do, whether that is homeschool with my daughter, or maybe that is doing the laundry. But if I'm sitting on a project or on an email and I have all these other distractions, it kills me. It takes me even longer to write that. But if I just kind of set that timer and say, okay, shut the door, even though I don't have one, and just kind of
Imaginary
close my
door.
eyes, imaginary door, and just focus on that task for 20 minutes, you'll get a lot more done if you just break it down instead of just having all of these things in your peripheral coming at you, and then your phone rings or someone slacks you. Um, there's a lot of distraction either in the office or working at home. But
Yeah.
again, working from home, it saves a lot in terms of getting more time for yourself. Like I was commuting anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half one way.
Yeah.
So being able to use that time that I would have been doing commuting to spend it with my daughter has been it's been really special.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's just like uh, this pandemic. It's allowed us to really spend more time with our family, regardless of all the distractions. And just like what you said, it's very important that we manage our time well, especially that we are working remotely or from home. And I think that everyone out there who is planning to start working from home, you will gradually like learn to really love it, and if not, then it's also okay. I guess we all have our preferences. And yes, before we end, I know it's a wrap up question, but I'd also just like to ask for your advice or our viewers out there who are like speaking with customers or clients on a daily basis. What would you tell them so that it would somehow lessen their anxiety or thinking that, oh my goodness, I have to speak with a customer who's an American, someone who has a different culture? What would you say?
Um, yeah, I think my number one tip would be really listen. Like,
Mm.
I think sometimes you get so nervous getting into a call and there's something you have to sell or there's something you've got to explain that you kind of just rattle off everything so
Yes.
that you don't miss your checklist.
Yeah.
And it turns out that that customer or that person you were speaking with didn't need all of those things, but there
Mm.
was one thing that you missed that they needed, and they may have said it but you weren't listening. So kind of practice that active listening. It's very important in any sort of lead generation, appointment setting, sales role,
Yeah.
um, to understand and read between the lines and just focus on that active listening skill,
Mm.
because there's a lot of hidden treasures in a conversation. you know
Yeah.
like don't force a sell. Don't talk at them.
Exactly. I agree, definitely agree with active listening. And I guess that we don't really have some magic spell or magic secrets to make it better every single day. We just we just show up and speak with our customers, and it gets better every day. And you just build your confidence along the way, in
Yeah, and
every type of job.
yeah, exactly. Prepare the questions that you want to ask them. Like, give them the opportunity to do all of the talking. um, I think in terms of what to prepare before getting onto the call, that'd probably be my biggest tip is to get your questions ready
Mm.
and listen to their answers.
Yes. Yes, most especially the answers, because that's how you will know how you're gonna rebut, I guess, or object, or add in whatever you need to add
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Kat, for
Thank you
spending some
too.
time with us here today. I'm sure our viewers have a lot to learn, and to anyone who's watching, don't forget to comment below your key takeaway or the lessons you've learned from this episode. I'm sure you've learned a lot from Kat, and yeah, thank you so much for your time here, and I'll see you everyone on the next episode. Thank you and
Bye.
bye.